advice that I was given to take it little pieces at a time.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I see why now. Like, bit by bit, let's just do these little pieces at a time.
Well, and so Abby, so Steel Creek's in an interesting position too, because they're like quasi cohort, quasi not in a cohort. So they are in a fun position because Abby's had the Coaching 101 training and all that kind of stuff, but we're trying to get some admin buy-in. So they're like my cohort, but not cohort. So they're fun.
Right. And what's really interesting is in the last 3 weeks, Heather, my role has kind of shifted temporarily for about a month, where I'm teaching 2 classes and I'm actually not pushing into classrooms right now.
Oh.
It was kind of a extreme circumstance where we needed to do some shifts in the classroom dynamics. So I have put my little coaching position-ish on a hold.
Yeah, that happens. It's okay.
It wasn't my decision.
Right.
But so anyways, I think the biggest aha that I've had with the process is the advice that I was given was just take it small steps at a time. And that is so very true.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we're working with adults, we think, oh, they're older, they can do more.
Right.
Give them this big thing and just unpack it later. And but I think it says a lot to get those quick wins, and then that's what keeps the momentum kind of going. So.
And Victoria is with us now.
Hey, Victoria!
You're muted.
Hey, Victoria.
You're muted, Victoria. So we can't hear you. Yay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
How's everybody?
Thanks.
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I think I had initially signed up for a different session, but my son caught the flu and life kind of took a left turn. Yeah, so I had to join you all tonight.
Well, don't say it like it's a bad thing.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Can you all see me? Because I can't see you. How do you do that?
Can you see my slides?
Yes.
You're like, why is the seagull there?
Right, okay. So you can't actually see me.
So right now I'm projecting, so we just have some guiding questions. If I take this off, we would be able to see each other. But because the slides is just to kind of keep the conversation moving. If you weren't with us at the Impact meeting, we have a seagull theme because we had a Finding Nemo theme. And because we're learner ownership, the seagulls in Finding Nemo say mine, mine, mine. And so I just didn't want you to think we were super crazy. We had a purpose.
Got you. You remember Nemo, yes.
Victoria, remind us what school you're from and what your role is.
I am at Harding, and I am a media specialist.
Awesome. So we just got started thinking of your impact plan. What's been your greatest success or an aha?
My greatest success. I think I would say the greatest success so far has been kind of getting the teachers on board. Initially, that has been the hardest part. Pushing into classrooms, really just collaborating, that has been pretty difficult. But I created a Google form and I asked very specific questions just to get an idea of what they are desiring or needing from me as a librarian, and how can I push into their classrooms and assist them. And the pushback hasn't been so terrible.
Good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And initially it was like they didn't really have time for me. And now it seems like the door is opening a little bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So both of you sounds like that you are having great relationship building moving on, which is, how we make changes and growth anyway. So
yeah. I do have to say a success that I had that I didn't think of at first was through some PDs where I'm bringing back what I'm learning. I'm bringing it back to a small group of people at the school, and we have pushed blended learning to where our whole group instruction is a lot smaller amount of time, if any at all, and then doing a 3-station rotation, and it's had its difficulties because it's uncomfortable for us. And then, of course, some of our students lost Chromebook privileges, so that kind of put a wrench in the technology piece, but also keeping in mind that it's not just technology that is a part of blended learning. It's only one station. So it's just kind of, some days it goes really well and some days it doesn't. But I do have to say, as a success, we have several classrooms in our school that are attempting blended learning on a pretty regular basis.
That's awesome.
Using our math and visions curriculum.
Awesome.
Is it Abby?
Yes.
Are you a media specialist also?
No, I teach 4th grade math.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we know, if you've ever heard that phrase, give them a fish or teach them how to fish. And sometimes we don't catch anything. What's been one of your struggles, challenge, and obstacle that maybe you didn't expect, that you didn't plan for initially, but it happened and you're working through it?
For me, it's like now that I've sort of connected with the teachers, now the big question is, as a media specialist, what to teach the students. Like where to start, I think is the biggest struggle. After I've spoken with the teachers, I have an idea of what they're needing from me. Now it's like the struggle, there is so much that the kids need that I don't even know where to start.
Have you talked to any of the like high school media specialists in the district that might be in the same kind of boat? Like I know the South Mech media specialist, Miriam Lackey, does a really good job of engaging the teacher. She has help desk, so she has a set of students that she has, but she does a really good job of making sure all the kids get into the media center and really working with the teachers. And I know at first it was a struggle for her to get that established, but now like she has them doing like breakout boxes and all this fun stuff. So that might be a good person to connect with, to like bounce some ideas with, like where'd you start, how are you helping.
And so is she doing that with her help desk students, or she's pushing into the classrooms?
So a lot of times the classes come to her because they're they're an open campus, kind of like you guys.
Yes.
So a lot of times they just come to her, but they have a schedule of, she knows who's coming in and what time and what they're doing, so that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So I definitely need to connect with her.
Yeah.
Because I think I just need a starting point.
Yeah.
I see so many holes that I don't quite know which one to target first. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Well, that's kind of like Abby was saying earlier, like start small. Like it's big, you're like, oh my goodness, there's so much. But where do I want to start? And just do like quick wins to help create that buy-in. And then you can start tackling the really big holes. So just kind of build those relationships up from the bottom, and then things will go a lot smoother.
That makes perfect sense. Yes.
I think one of my biggest obstacles or challenges is that, like referring back to the blended learning where we have 3 stations, a small group, an independent practice that's like hands-on or paper pencil, or it might even be one day a collaborative station. But then the 3rd station is the technology piece. I feel like I could do that blended learning model, but not be personalized. With it, if I didn't have intention, it would still not be personalized learning. So like in order for it to be personalized, it's almost as if I have 3 groups, I need 3 different activities based on what those kids need, their abilities or their needs. So the differentiation for my core instruction is 3 parts at each of the 3 stations, which is essentially is like 9 things.
Yeah.
During core, but then that doesn't even touch the differentiation that I am planning for or prepping in my like workshop or my intervention block. So it's just a lot of pieces, and so to kind of work around that obstacle, it was like, well, let me just get this model in place and not worry about the differentiation in each station. But I also need to be realistic with myself, like, don't get comfortable in this because
it's going to
there's
change.
another component that needs to be shifted eventually. I just don't know how to, on a daily basis, you're coming up with maybe not 9, but like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just in a teacher's classroom, and she has the same thing. She was doing menu boards, and for each option of the menu board, she had the 3 different choices. It was a lot, but think about your differentiation doesn't have to be elaborate or as complex. It could be something just additional as read aloud, or it could be just that they get a graphic organizer, or the differentiation piece could be that it's a different product, not necessarily a different task. So you could still keep your 3 main tasks as the meat, and then tweak it slightly rather than having 9 different tasks. Just as an option, right or wrong, but
yeah. And when I started doing it, I always tell people, like, you'll be exhausted from like planning and not from teaching, because it is shifting planning, because there are so many more pieces. So, but when I started doing that, same idea, I only could really differentiate my stations. So like when they rotated, they had a different task or a different objective, was when we were getting ready to review for like a test coming up, because then using their data, I knew who was struggling with what standard. So it was easier for me to be like, okay, these kids we're going to work on that standard when they're with me. They're going to review that or do something with it to show mastery on the computer, and then they'll have a collaborative on that. So that's how I started getting into, I started differentiating for my groups in blended learning with reviews first. And once I kind of got a handle on that, I was like, okay, let me try it, one other time a week. Let me try, like.
And that's a good idea too. So if you started your stations with reviews, then you could release them. So maybe 2 stay reviews and 1 now becomes new content.
Right. And as a cohort at the school, when we started talking about how we were going to implement these 3 stations, we talked about how one of the ones that the group starts with has to be some type of review, because they can't start working on that task or that skill if they've never been taught it in the small group.
Yeah. I switched the slide. I feel like we've kind of dabbled in here a little bit as we're talking about next steps, so it just seems appropriate. I've heard your next steps. If there's anything extra you want to add, but really now, what do you need from us? Or not even us, from your school? What supports do you need, period?
What supports do we need, period? I think for me, just the space to collaborate. Like, I have the media center. I need the space and the time to collaborate with English teachers. So we've talked about collaboration, but now it's a matter of them actually coming to the library so that we can collaborate. So I think I just need the time to do it. Like, sit down, literally schedule a time for them to bring their classes and teach them about the media center and what it has to offer.
Yeah, and like for you, Victoria, I think, finding other like high school media specialists, because you guys are you're in a different role than elementary media specialists, who are usually on a specials rotation, so the kids, you're guaranteed to see them.
Yes.
So I think trying to build those relationships even within.
I agree.
Would be really helpful. That's like a really good.
And then actually schedule time.
Yeah.
For them to come.
Yeah, that would be a really good, strong next step.
It's like, I don't know, at the high school level, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're sort of on a fixed schedule at the elementary school level, but in high school, I mean, it's almost like pulling teeth to get the teachers to bring their kids down. It's like they feel like they're stretched thin as it is. Like we don't have time to bring the kids down there. We have to teach content. We have PLC meetings. We have data dives. They're like, do you really want me to bring my kids down there? Yeah.
I've heard that too. I wonder if you can nicely invite yourself into their classroom. So because you're so knowledgeable within the resources that you have, if you can almost bring the resources to them as not a peace offering, but kind of like, here's what we have to offer. Here's
right.
some of the things that we have, because they may not know what they're missing out on until they see it.
Very true. Very true.
I know some high schools have also, media specialists have leveraged the graduation project, their senior exit. So for junior year to really start working on that paper, and then they would go into the classrooms and really talk about research and copyright and all, like start there and start building those relationships, and then they came back to them the next year for like presentation skills, like things that so they use that as a launching point, like, hey, I can offer you something
absolutely
to help with that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as you move forward, as you take your teeny tiny tiptoe steps, just know that every sunset's an opportunity to reset. So every day is a new day, and sometimes it feels like we're starting over, or like we're backpedaling and then moving forward. But it is a fresh start. It's sometimes hard to grow, especially when we face failure. We're able to do that gracefully and keep it moving. So,
one thing that I don't think I really touched on because it didn't necessarily apply as a success for me or like a recent success for me is we are data tracking, but I don't know that so going back to what you asked about what I need or what supports, like I know that kids are tracking it. I know that I'm talking to the kids about the importance of being able to look at their mistakes for each item that they're tracking on their data analysis sheet. But in regards to how they take ownership over that data tracker and make learning choices based on it, I can visualize it, but I've not experienced it. Because I don't know that I have the planning and prep for them to be able to choose. I think, unless it's just like this standard on this worksheet, and I have like 7 different standard worksheets out, and that doesn't sound fun to me at all, or doesn't even sound like, that just seems like the easy way out. But like, if I had 7 standards that they had tracked recently, and these 5 standards are what they need to practice, then they could go to these 5 standards based on what they looked at on their data tracker. All that to say, let me sum up the terrible communication just did.
No, you're
straight to the point. Straight to the point. I track, and they look at it, and they can see their strong points and their weaknesses, but I don't know that they use it moving forward.
Yeah, and Abby, that's something we can get together about, or next time on there we can chat. But Jen, ever since you mentioned your wow goals today, so a lot of times once they have the data and they get to what do I do with it, right? So like, yep, okay, great, I got this is red, this is yellow, this is green, red. Okay, cool, I'm struggling with this standard. So they can look and see that, but a lot of times we are missing that ownership piece. And how do they okay, I'm working on this because it's something I haven't mastered yet, right? So getting them to transition to that thinking, a lot of times it's done really well with goal setting, and you'll have to have those conversations around what are good goals, kind of like our SMART goal thing, but that starts that ownership piece of okay, I'm working on this because my goal in basketball, I want to be a better shooter, so I work on shooting. So like it's the same idea. And Jen today mentioned one of her teachers did WOW goals, and it was within 1 week, right?
So WOW stood for within 1 week, WOW.
Yeah.
Not that you know how to spell it, but and so some of the goals were academic based in regard to standards, but some of the other goals were those soft skills like time management or staying on task or maybe being more present in a small group. So Abby, while you're still making your centers, you can still start the process of of goal setting, and then once you get your design in place, then you can switch it over to standards. But yeah, it was just a cool. I see so often that teachers are supporting students in tracking goals, but they're so big that they're hard to manage, and you're just kind of like swimming in this goal.
Yeah, and I also don't know that I know when, like what time of the day am I individually conferencing with them to set these goals, or I just, on paper it looks great. I could plan it and put it in my lesson plan, but when it comes to the day of,
I don't think there's a wrong time.
We as teachers know that. Like, it doesn't. There's some type of interruption in the classroom, or like my lesson runs long because they're just not understanding the skill, or I'm having to go slower so that they do understand it. So then it's very negative talk at the moment, but like it's just reality, I think. For me.
Well, I know we're almost out of time. We're here if you need anything, and you have your PDL specialist. We want to spend our last minute with just getting you excited to join us. If you already have your computer out, right? You're already in the zone of learner ownership. In 2 minutes, we're starting a Twitter chat around passion projects, which is very much driven by the learner. So if you have some free time on your hands, join us for our Twitter chat.
Hashtag CMSPDL.
Yep, in 1 minute. 1 minute. You have time to even go get a snack and come back and get ready.
You and I must have different snacks, because.
So hopefully, I appreciate your think tank and the collaboration here. Is there anything else you all need before we sign off? No. Okay, well, Heather and I will go back into the course. Oh, Abby, what happened? Hello?
Uh-oh. Is she here?
I don't know. Are you here?
Uh-oh.
Abby, if you can hear us, you can email me if you have any questions.
Oh, she's out. I don't know what happened. It sounded like an alien took over.
Right.
I missed the closure.
Your computer started making weird noise.
What's happening?
Oh, wow.
Part of the end. So I don't know what you said
All right, well, Victoria, I'm going to sign off so I can go get the Twitter chat going, and let us know if you need anything. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
Bye.